Hi everybody. So I'm following up with the Instagram post that I did last night, which was inspired by Catherine Bruna Young's Mindful Strength podcast, her interview with Nick St. Louis of the Foot Collective. And I'm going to just kind of reiterate what it is that I learned from the podcast and how it's kind of benefited my personal practice. I've been working on my feet personally for a couple years now, as I've really begun to understand through my education how the foot connects to everything else. And so the workout that I did last night was about 45 minutes, and it covered all aspects of rolling it out, using your hands, using external sources, and trying to move all the ligaments, muscles, and foot joints. Is an amazing structure. It has 26 bones, 33 joints, and over 100 different muscles, tendons, and ligaments. So the foot is strong, it's complex, it's meant to move through all ranges of motion that it can, and oftentimes people have issues when they can't say supinate or they can't pronate, and I will explain those in subsequent videos. So today I'm just going to go through the first thing I did in the movement video, which is rolling out the foot with a ball. Really any ball works. I happen to use a lacrosse ball, but you can use a tennis ball. Rubs, these are great. The brand Rubs, it's got some little textural things, that's fine. Or bouncy ball. Bouncy ball is going to be the most pointed and obviously the most specific. I highly recommend starting with tennis ball or lacrosse ball. Just like Nick said in the podcast, if you listen to it, these are kind of nice because the texture grips to your foot a little bit and the floor, and so it doesn't shoot out. And this is rolling out the ball of your foot is a really great way to get into all the fascia and the ligaments and the connective tissue. Right on the ball of my foot. So I start under my big toe and I basically press in, allow my toes to kind of soften around, and then I just roll my foot back and forth. I go very, very slow. This is sped up about 6 times. And so once I've gone back and forth and really feel that the tendons, the ligaments and stuff get to spread, then I move the ball a little bit farther. And again, I go back and forth, a little more, back and forth, go on the heel. And then I put the ball in right about in the middle, and then I lift the other foot. And so that just adds more pressure, go back and forth, super slow, super aware of what is going on in your feet, and then switch. Pretty simple. We want our feet to be as wide and expansive and reactive to the ground as they possibly can be. Most of us tend to have rather stiff feet because they've been in shoes that are not necessarily designed to allow the foot to move as much as it should. Like I mentioned, there's hundreds of ligaments and muscles and tendons in the feet alone, 33 joints, about 20 of those which are meant to be articulating, which means they need to move. So we need to let the foot move, which basically requires you to stretch it out. The foot needs to move through full pronation and full supination as it strikes the ground through one round of gait cycle. So basically the heel hits the ground. As the heel hits the ground, the entire medial arch needs to release and basically flatten out. The bones need to splay out, and that creates pronation, which is super important. And it also is the kind of rebound energy for supination, which is where the arch lifts. The medial arch here, the spring ligament works, and the toe off is the final thing that kind of helps propel you forward. So the foot needs to heel strike, it needs to pronate, it needs to spread out, and that spreading out and the energy going down is what creates the impetus for the spring ligament to spring back up, the arch to lift, the energy to go up through the legs, the big toe to toe off, and for you to walk on. Oftentimes that doesn't happen exactly as we want because things are stiff. Grab a ball, roll out. It's going to help you to be able to spread out more so that you can gain the energy to spring back up and continue on walking.